Sherpa, still one of the most popular things to wear during the winter. But when it comes to decorating it, a lot of people think embroidery is your only option. On this episode, we're going to show you that that's not true at all. Welcome everyone to another episode of Decoration Myths. I'm Stephen Bear from S&S Activewear, and I am joined by the one and only Josh Ellsworth from STAHLS. So I see we're in the home studio. We're ready to go. So what we've been doing is reviewing all the feedback. And as we're heading into kind of the winter season, there are so many cozy items out there. Cozy usually equates to textured fibers. So that is the myth we are going to bust today. Textured fibers are like a Sherpa. So Sherpa is going to be featured inside out fleece. So we're going to talk about it. And I think the biggest myth out there, and I'm definitely one of them, is when I look at a Sherpa, for instance, I see a forest of, polyester fibers because they're all 100% poly. How do you get into this? And by applying heat, it's intimidating because you think, all these items say do not iron. So now we're going to heat transfer it. So Josh, I mean, this is a challenge.
Yeah. So this is a slippery slope, but we're going to show you how to decorate fabrics that you can wear on the slope. How about that? I agree. People are intimidated by Sherpa, and honestly, I was intimidated for a while many years ago when these fabrics first came onto the marketplace. I was thinking to myself, how are we going to solve this as a heat transfer company? Because embroidery definitely has a place onto these texture fabrics, and it does quite well, but we need to have more than one decorating solution to be able to create different looks with different logos and hit different price points. And so we took on the challenge of Sherpa a few years back. Of course, the fabrics have changed a bit, and not all Sherpa is the same. And so there are some technical tips and thought processes that we're going to go through today as we decorate these pieces. But I think at the end of it, whether you're a distributor or a decorator, you're going to have the confidence to approach these fabrics and how you need to handle design and decoration. So you want to get started?
Absolutely. We're in good hands.
All right, perfect. So I think we'll start today with this particular piece from Boxercraft. So you want to educate us on the piece?
Yes, this is the YQ10, the Youth Sherpa. This is really popular. You're looking at a color there named Frosty Garnet. And so there's a lot of cool colors for the kids in the youth category. But you can see what's unique about this piece is they have unique seams, which is why we wanted to send it into you to kind of look at, you can really see the separation of the fabric, right? And so this is the myth started right here. Like, how do we get that one?
Yeah, so let's start by getting it onto our heat press. And we always like to thread the garment like we do in most episodes. And so it's important that you have a heat press that allows you to thread it. This hang tag's coming up on my placement area, so I am going to remove that for heat application because I certainly would melt that plastic that's attaching the tag to the garment. So we want to be careful about that. And yeah, as you mentioned, we want to hit a left chest placement on this garment, but I have a big thick seam also running across the left chest. And so multiple potential issues on this garment. Not only are we dealing with the textured fabric, we're dealing with the zipper, we're dealing with the seam around our placement zone. And so rather than trying to conquer all of that, what I recommend is coming up with a placement that puts you underneath or on top of the seam. So basically, we're going to do a high left chest here. And the product we're going to be using that I'm going to talk to you about is a glitter heat transfer. Okay, so this product is called Glitter Flake. And this is where we bring our first tip for decorating heavily textured fabrics and fibers. And that is you want to select a heat transfer type that has some thickness to it. Because really we're going to cover these fibers in such a way we don't want to see the texture of the fibers per se coming through our heat transfer, because that's going to create issues. And ultimately when that garment gets laundered, you're going to see some cracking and some issues. So you don't want to go for a thin heat transfer here. We want to go with some thickness. And so let's start, as always, as we always do, with the preheat. Now, some of these polyester fibers will bleed. And so if I remember today, and you can remind me, Stefan, I'm always going to try to use a cover sheet when I'm preheating and doing all of my steps. Anytime you're decorating poly that may bleed, we don't want to get that up onto the heater. And so I'm going to use that cover sheet. Nice. I'm going to start with the preheat. Again, there's a lot of seam structure here, so I think I'm going to be benefited from a heat press pillow, which we use often. Heat press pillow is a great accessory to be able to slide in here. And so even though I'm not going directly over that seam, what it's going to allow that seam to do is to sink down in. And so it's not going to cause a dropout in pressure near the bottom of my logo. And so we load that pillow. I do, since I forgot it, I do want to check my pressure with the pillow in because it does add some thickness. And we're good. We're at a nice medium to firm pressure. I'm at 300 degrees. I'm going to position my logo down.
Very cool.
And it just lays right on top. You really don't have to, handle much attention here. I like the pre-press because that kind of flattens the Sherpa for application. And you'll see we'll brush it up a little bit after application to present the product nicely. We just position it into place, and then we're going to lock down the press for the recommended time, temperature, and pressure. Now, this is the easy part, right? We're at 300 degrees. It's going to lock down. There are some special considerations when you're applying heat transfers to Sherpa. Covered one, you want to use a thicker heat transfer. Something else you want to consider doing is cold peeling your transfer. If you try to hot peel on the Sherpa fabric, typically you don't get the adhesive to set up nice on any style of transfer, and you're going to get some lifting. And so you want to exercise patience on this. And so what I like to do is I pull that garment off of the press. We just want to let this cool down a bit. And we've shown this tip before, but just hold it against something to cool it down. You can do this, or you can just throw it to the side and let it sit once you get the confidence. But since we're doing one, I'll pull the heat out of it. And then we will grab the corner of the transfer, and it's always best to lay it on a nice flat surface to peel it. And I'm going to remove it. And so most of these sticky carriers, you will see, will like kind of lift the Sherpa fabric and tug and pull at it as you're lifting it, but you don't need to be intimidated. These heat transfer products stick very well to polyester. And so I'm just kind of guiding it around as I peel it, trying not to warp the graphic too much. Throw away my back carrier. And then what I like to do is I kind of brush the fabric back out, because we're not scorching the fabric at all. But we are kind of raising it in certain areas, and it has, it's matted down in certain areas. So I always brush the fabric before I present it to the customer. And let's take a look at our final result.
I would have never pictured glitter on a Sherpa or a textured fabric for that matter. And it turned out that nice.
Yeah, it does look nice. And here's what I want to point out. I chose this graphic intentionally because it does some things very well. And then there's some risk areas that I want to point out to you. So you want to be careful on the thickness of your design and your graphics. So anywhere you're going to have thin lines, these are pretty thick and they do a nice job, but that's about the thinnest I want to go. And so that's about somewhere around an 1/8 inch, 1/4 inch thick line thickness. If you start to go too thin, what's going to happen is the Sherpa fabric moves up. When people are wearing it and laundering it and it's getting used, it's going to make the logo look distorted. And so you'll see as we progress here, we're going to go to larger coverage, patch-like products and patch-like looks, because that's going to represent a corporate logo or a sports logo in the best fashion. When we're doing a monogram and a fashion logo, we have a little bit more leeway, but it's easy. You can do it.
That's great. So, I mean, and this is something we hit on the show all the time, is the amount of prep to make things move rapidly once you get in front of the heat press. So you just brought up a great point of really working with your customer to say, hey, send me the artwork. Let's look at it, because, it's a challenging fabric, but it can be done. But if you walk them through it, that comfortability, is just building. And then your production time gets lowered as well. So
yeah. And I can tell you, once you decorate, a couple dozen Sherpa pieces, you'll start to get a confidence for what works and what doesn't, and you'll be able to incorporate that into your sales presentation. And speaking of sales opportunities, you guys sent me this in. I know you're going to talk about it, but I want to tell you, I'm actually going to buy this piece this year and use it for teacher appreciation gifts for my daughter's school because I love it so much. So talk to me about this piece.
That is a fantastic piece. This is correctly named the Epic Sherpa Blanket. This is style 8449. So J America came out with this a couple years ago. And what they've added to it is this pillow that you can fold it back into a pillow so it sits conveniently on your couch or chair or even bed. And so they've nicknamed it Blanko. So you have to follow the instructions, you know, it'd probably take more than one try to get it back together, but decorators, it comes this way. So we ship this out in this format. But what's unique that jumped out at me when we launched this is it is a queen size blanket. Traditionally, blankets are 50 by 60 in our industry, you know, because that's how everything kind of started. And, you know, that's just a throw, kind of like a stadium blanket. But now it's evolved into bigger blankets because when you get that corporate gift, you know, you can put two people in this that, you know, are close, that want to sit on the couch. But this one, when you have it, I mean, you nailed it. Most people, when they order a sample, they're like, "Oh, I need a ton of these." So,
yeah. So I love the look. I love whoever receives this. They're gonna, not only is it cozy, but it's very functional, being able to operate like a pillow and a blanket. And hey, for a decorator, which I'm kind of partial to, it's easy because decorating blankets are possible. Maybe that's a future episode in how to handle that. But this blanket is easier than most because it has this pocket that turns into a pillow. And that gives me an instant, easy decoration area where I can actually line up my graphic the same every time when I'm doing a job, which is awesome. So I split this if you were watching.
What kind of transfer are we looking at here?
Yeah, so in this particular case, we're going to use flock. And so the first product was glitter. Our soft flock product kind of matches this texture, right? Because it has that velvet-like finish and face to it. So if you're laying your head against this, which it's intended to be a pillow as well, it's going to feel soft like the Sherpa fabric. So it's a nice paired product. You certainly wouldn't want to put your face against the rough glitter. Yes. This flock meets the mark. So same thing. We're just going to split it and load it. I need a little bit of support here because I have the balance of my blanket hanging underneath the press. We're going to position this on. I've already preheated if you were paying attention. And now I'm just going to cover it. And again, we're going to heat press it. 300 degrees, 15 seconds.
Nice. So you were actually physically holding the blanket to give it support to get everything lined up. Yeah.
I was. I mean, you can lift it up and kind of tuck it under your press to the table so it's not dragging, but I just found it easier to kind of grab it and support it. Again, after it's done, remember, quick tip for Sherpa, not only do we want to do thicker transfers, we want to peel them cold or colder, even if they say to hot peel. If you try to peel this hot, what's going to happen is that flock, that adhesive is going to stretch while it's still hot because it's kind of going through the valleys of this fiber. And it's going to have a distorted or stretched image, okay? And you're not going to like the quality. So let it cool completely down, exercise patience, and peel it when it's done, okay?
That's fantastic. So, you know, just another add on this Epic blanket is, you know, you're looking at the oatmeal color. There's a black heather. These, you know, are very popular. So this time of year, it's a great gifting item. So they just released plaid in this. So a black and gray kind of buffalo plaid and then a red and black. So you got some nice choices.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right. So cool down. I'm going to grab the corner. And again, it's kind of grips to the Sherpa. So you're going to see a little bit of the fiber peel up, but don't be afraid to just release it and kind of trail it around. You don't want to, you know, rip it because really what I'm trying to prevent here is from the Sherpa fibers raising too much and going over the edge. So I just kind of trace my graphic on the peel, support my design as I'm peeling the backing, and we have really good contact and coverage here. So there's a choice that you can make. Let me show you the finished result as we sit right now. Kind of, there you go.
Oh, that is cool.
Yeah, and it's soft. It just
Super
blends
soft.
right in. So I love that. And some people like to throw this back onto the heat press and heat press it again to just make sure it's on there. I have high confidence that it's on there to stay. You don't need to worry about that. But if you want to blend it a little bit more, you can throw it back on, heat press it for 5 seconds, no big deal. But I do recommend always brush that fabric before you deliver the finished product that's going to present very well.
That looks great. No, and then like you mentioned earlier, watching you kind of tug on that, you can get after it after it's cooled down. And I would have been the hesitant person going, ooh, and so it was nice to see you kind of aggressively, because you have to keep things moving, right?
Yeah, and the adhesive is set up at that point. If I would have done that when it was hot, and trust me, I've done it when it was hot before and tried it that way because I'm impatient. It distorts the graphic. You're not going to want to do that. You're going to want to exercise patience and wait till it's cool. Yeah. So, all right, let's keep going. I got a couple more looks today. We're doing all kinds of Sherpa, and this one, I think this is a piece I would certainly wear. I love this piece.
This is great. So this is the new Rugged Ridge to Sherpa fleece jacket. And I mean, this, as you're holding it and I'm looking at it with those oversized pockets, this is built for comfort, right? This is your, out in California, it's Ugg boot city, you throw your Ugg boots on, you're in your sweats, you throw that, it's an all-in jacket and you're warm to go run a couple errands or go get a cup of coffee. But it's something, I pictured when it came in on the holidays, it's you live in it, right? I mean, it's a cozy piece, and Columbia does such a great job of giving us product that keeps you on mountain, meaning the extreme elements and weather protection. But then they also realize you come off mountain and it's all built for comfort. So this is a great new ad. And this is a unique color. This is that fossil color. And, it's, what would you say, khaki, tan?
Yeah, khaki, and there's some nice, the zipper is like an olive green. That's a nice complementing color.
Yeah, they all have contrast zippers. So,
Yeah, so this is one, again, not all Sherpa is created equal. And so as a decorator, what I recommend you do is you test the limits of your Sherpa from a temperature standpoint. And what I mean by that is this is one that you can easily scorch, and I have, okay? So that's going to happen. But part of decorating challenging fabrics and products in general is those who put in the work to watch these episodes and do it without giving up, with doing testing to see what the fabrics can take and how to accomplish it. You'll create a gap between yourself and other decorators or other salespeople where you'll have better market space that's not as price competitive. And so, yeah, I scorched this at 360 degrees because I was trying an embroidered patch product. So I'm not going to do an embroidered patch product. Instead, we're going to do a faux leather product that's going to do the same job, just apply at a little bit lower temperature.
Oh, those are great.
Yeah. And so faux leather, again, we're dealing with like a patch-like image, lots of coverage. I preheated. I have a pillow under here because I have this horizontal seam, again, that I'm contending with that I want to sink into the pillow. I'm going to position this, and I'm choosing the color of the faux leather that I think matches very nicely to the style of the jacket.
I think it's
and
great.
Almost forgot something here. When you're pressing faux leather, you recognize this. We use this when we're using the hat press in previous episodes. This can be used on your standard press as well. It goes right over top of the patch, so it kind of protects the fabric. Then we're going to put a cover sheet over the whole thing. And faux leather applies for 15 to 20 seconds. So I'm going to increase my time to make sure I get plenty of time to get good, durable adhesion here. And again, I've added thickness, so I need to reduce my pressure. And we lock it down and let the heat press do the work.
I love it. But you bring up, going back to the prep and making the investment of shipping in the product early when you're interested in something, and literally, tearing it apart. And, our sales rep, often when someone's hesitant is, we love to send that sample in and say, decorate this, every which way you want to. And in the heat press, like, go for it, right? Make the investment, get the sample. And when you get this down, this is such a value add. I mean, it matches the contrast zipper. I mean, that is, wow.
Yeah. So what I would do if I'm a decorator, I would, and this is a fabric I want to add to my line, I would order one in, invest the money. It's going to be a terrible thing to do, but you're going to cut it into small strips of the Sherpa, and you're going to test it before you ever buy a heat transfer product, all the way from 300 degrees up to 360 and 20 or 10 degree increments. See what that fabric can take without damaging, to ensure that you can select the right heat transfer products to showcase for your client. And faux leather is a great product to do on this.
Oh, that's a great pro tip.
All right. So I want to keep moving. You could certainly add additional customization areas to that, but I want to get you started talking about plaids and the seasonality of plaids. And this is a great piece that is worthwhile to decorate this time of year.
Yeah. So this is actually, we did the YQ10 earlier, and this is the Q10. So this is now set up as a unisex piece. So the whole line, it's, got a ton of colors. I mean, 18 colors, and it starts at extra small and goes up to 3XL. So here's the ever popular, still trending like crazy, red buffalo plaid. So this is very popular, and it's, this sells in so many different arenas. It sells, you had mentioned, on the slopes, ski resorts in general that have, colder weather, schools, whether it's, from grade school all the way through collegiate level. This is the real deal. It's very nice.
Yeah, and interesting enough, when people decorate plaid fabrics, I think it's best to go basic. If you get too detailed, it's just not decorating patterns. We've taught on it in the past at the virtual event that you guys had to kick off the year, but it's just not the same as decorating a plain fabric. And so you want to be very considerate of your logo. In this case, I actually took this idea from a decorator that shared it in our Facebook group. And so the soft foam product we've used on here before, again, we're going to go thicker, and I'm going to create my own PVC looking patch with just heat transfer vinyl and soft foam. So this is 2 colors. I have 2 layers. They're both really thick polyurethane based material. I'm going to put kind of a rectangle there with the rounded corners, a patch style. And I'm going to come over top of it with a second layer that's more of my brand icon or my logo, whatever you want to do. And it's going to create this tonal dimension that's going to look awesome. So let's get started on it. I love decorating plaid because I have at least some lines here that helps me line up everything and make sure it's straight. Still want a pinch top shoulder. There's no horizontal seam on this one, so I don't need the pillow. I can just go straight. Almost missed it.
Yeah.
Straight to the fabric.
I didn't catch it as fast as you did, but that's great.
Yeah, and this one, again, in testing the heat limits, this fabric was one that could take 360 degrees very easily without scorching. And so it opens up a huge variety of different transfer types that I could use on here. However, once you get up into those temperatures, you want to pay attention to your cover sheet. It looks pretty good at the temperature I'm at, but you'll start to activate the dyes in the fabric, and they may start to bleed onto your heater. So you may need to dispose of your cover sheet if you're doing something that requires a very high temperature. And so again, cold peel. So this is a 2-layer application, so a little more work, but the finished result's going to be worth it. This is our grand finale.
You hitting it on the metal there? Yeah.
Yeah, I got it. I should do it on the metal. That's a good idea. I was doing it on the wood.
Okay. That's awesome. So.
Oh, I could see that. We need like ice packs that go in here. I'm getting engineering ideas here.
I love it.
They should keep me away from engineering, probably. All right, so we're going to peel. Right, now we have our base layer set up. Also want to watch this because, this is dimensional fibers, and they want to kind of wrap over the edge. So I'm just going to take a couple seconds and make sure those fibers aren't coming over the edge, because the way I've created this foreground layer, it's going to go all the way to the edge. And so it's going to look like it's built into the patch. And so I'll just take some time to line it up. got it, cover it, press it, and then
Voila.
wait for the beautiful result.
That's great. Yeah, I knew, you had talked about alignment of the plaid. Like, can you kind of get into that a little bit? Because so many people ask, how do I align? Alignment is so important, right?
Yeah, and every fabric's not going to be sewn the same. And so you
Yes.
still want to use your old standard alignment tips of pinching the top shoulder for a left chest location, doing a vertical line down. And depending on the size of the garment, you usually end up about 7 inches down for the center of your graphic from pinching the top shoulder on like a crew neck style.
Okay.
And then usually people make the mistake of putting it too far under the armpit or too close to center. And so by pinching that top shoulder, it's going to give you an alignment for the left chest graphic that's perfect to the neckline of the garment. So that works with crew neck styles, quarter zips, polos. Only thing it really doesn't work with is like anything with a unique neckline, like a scoop neck or something
Okay.
like that. Yeah.
That's excellent advice. Thank you.
Yep. So let's cool this
Yeah.
down. And then we will reveal this. And then I want to talk about one other concept here once we finish this one. So it's cooled down, and then we will just grab the corner and we will peel it. Let's see if we can take a close-up look here. It's awesome. So you get the dimension, you get the texture, and as you take a look at the finished results and the photos, you guys are going to love the result and what you're able to achieve here. Just really, really
That's
sharp.
great.
Yeah. So one more quick application, won't be long because I know, but embroidered patches, people love embroidered patches. Another
Absolutely.
great product that you can use on here. This one's for ski patrol to kind of tie off this garment. You can hit any placement location you want. All the same rules. Position it into place. When you're doing the dimensional patches, we're going to use our foam cover pad. We're always going to use a cover sheet, and you're starting to see those dyes bleed onto the cover sheet a bit, right?
Okay.
You want to be careful if you use the same cover sheet on like a white garment, that would transfer over. But doing these buffalo plaid garments in the red, I can keep using that same cover sheet over and over because I don't need to worry about that dyeing a pattern that's already there. So all kinds of things you can do with Sherpa. Who would have thought, right?
Oh no, I think that's the whole purpose is, this textured fabric. It's intimidating, but as usual, you have busted this myth and just made it look so easy. So
yeah, it really is. And hey, you can't shortchange results. I'm trying to rush the show because we're coming up on the end. Look what happened. You try to apply that with not enough heat, it doesn't apply. Not enough time. Right. And so we are only at 340 degrees. We need to be at 360. We need to be at the 30 seconds. So follow your instructions or you won't get a good result. But hey, we're out of time for today. So
awesome. Well, I so appreciate the time that you've given us. And again, just home runs and, you can decorate cozy stuff. So I really appreciate your time as always. And we'll keep busting these myths. I love it.
Yeah, thanks for having me again. Hopefully the decorators have learned something, and I'm going to head over to the website to buy some of those pillow blankets to make sure I get them in time for Christmas.
I love it. I love it. We're here for you. Okay.
Thanks.
See ya. Hey, thanks for joining us on this episode of Decoration Myths. For more information on any of the products that you've seen today, check out the links in the description below. And if you enjoyed any part of the video, give us a like as well. See you next time.